I was watching last season's FNCS when I realized that Fortnite has finally gotten less sweaty. At the highest level, the top pro tournament, pros aren't doing these edit courses and boxing kids in massive build fights. They are just playing in boxes. So if you are someone that's been struggling in builds recently, or have purely stuck to no builds because regular is quote unquote too sweaty, the entire game has shifted and you can survive in this meta. You don't have to be quick with builds or edits if you can play out of a couple boxes. You can demolish Timmies who spend their entire time in creative practicing build fights. So here's how to do it. But the cost is to drop code reidtheninja in the item shop if you're going to grab the battle pass or an early item shop cop. Use my code or another small creator's code so we can break onto the scene, but here's how to stop these sweaty build fights. Depending on your skill level and comfort with builds, you can bait people as just a dude, and then quickly box up when they push you. Or if you really did just find my channel despite quitting the game and playing strictly no build or something like that and can't box up quickly, then do the slow builds. Channel that inner default energy and place builds one at a time. But in the end, you should have a 1-layer high structure with multiple boxes. It can be a 2x2 or really any shape as long as you have enough space to retreat into. Then when someone sees your little structure and pushes you, you can be ready to fight. But not build fight, box fight. They'll try and take your walls and you can hold them if you are comfortable doing that, or even go for an edit shot on them. But if you're not comfortable, just retreat into your next box. They will likely try to push from another angle if you retreat, or keep moving in from the first opening. You now should play the rest of this engagement with right hand peeks. You don't need to know how to edit course, you just need to know how to edit a wall to give you the right hand advantage. Obviously, if you're comfortable with this, do it mid-fight. But if you truly are back, like day one to builds, have some pre-edited peeks in your retreat boxes so you don't have to edit mid-fight. And if you keep playing and maybe win in some of these fights, maybe you can work up to that. But what will the opponent do if you play safe like this? Be ready. The enemy will try to not only take your wall, but slide a piece into your box. This is either a cone or a stair. So you need to play with cones under your feet so the enemy can't put their own editable cone under you or their own stair to block you. Your cone acts as a counterpiece, but can also serve as protection if edited when retreating further into the box. So if the enemy can't take your wall or you're too deep into your boxes, they will then try to phase into your box to take away your right hand advantage if it's taken too long. So be ready. Many players will call this too sweaty and a glitch that ruins the game. You know, why can builds be used to negate my own builds? But instead of looking at it that way, think about it as evening the playing field. If you two end up in a box one-on-one like that, the better builder and editor doesn't matter. It's now the best aimer. So the no-build gamers should love scenarios like this. It is literally taking away the one skill they have that you don't. So don't get annoyed at these phase tricks, embrace them, and be ready for them. An enemy can phase into your box anytime by momentum phasing or by stair phasing. So look for enemies building up speed or placing a stair behind them and be ready. Have your shotgun out and get that initial damage. Another thing that might be considered sweaty is an opponent taking your wall and instantly editing on you for a shot. So don't put yourself in that situation. Instead of trying to hold your wall, just play into your retreat boxes. It's better to fall back into an angle you already have rather than trying to keep a wall or create a new one. So depending on your confidence on getting these peak damage shots is how many boxes you need to make. If you think you truly only need one box to fall into, then yeah, save the mats, be confident. But if you truly are just coming back, then make at least 10 boxes because you don't know how to build, so you'll need more to fall back into. And yes, this will take a lot of mats, 10 boxes, but it's still going to be less than this. Another vital thing to pay attention to is what material you are building out of. For most players, I would recommend using brick or metal. These are considered hard mats because of how much health they have, and I would stray away from using wood because it's easier for opponents to take because of its low health. Wood also makes it easier to phase through since it only takes 2 pickaxe swings as opposed to 4 or 5. And I know I said getting ready for the phase is important, but I'd still use hard mats so it isn't as surprising when they do it onto your wood box. Using hard mats is also important if you are going to do pre-edited peaks inside of your box. If you have an advantageous angle, the enemy is going to try to shoot it out. So make sure it has enough health where you're not going to get instantly damaged the second they see you behind this corner wall. And lastly, this tip is about positioning. If you want to avoid build fights, you need to be as predictive as possible so you can avoid being adaptive. Adaptiveness is a good thing, but adaptiveness is build fighting. Because you need to adapt to a player pushing you when you have no pre-built structure, so then you start building up and up. But being predictive, you can avoid this. Follow zone and predict where you need to be to avoid or attract enemies. Predict the way enemies will approach your box so you can be ready for them with angles. Predict what they will do if neither of you die. Will they just leave, or will they camp you out until zone takes your box? That is likely, so what do you do then? There are different approaches to this, but make sure you have an item or an idea for rotation. If they are camping you out, shockwave or fly above their head. Build a couple of walls to protect yourself, and now they're behind you. Or to be even more predictive, base up on a rift. Rifts spawn underneath the island, which is usually center zone, and a perfect place to base up on. If the enemy is camping you out, rift out and you're good. Just have an idea of what to do in case that happens. And I also want to show you an in-depth pro match where they're playing in 1-layer boxes so you can see how this works on a high level. But before I do, if you've enjoyed this video so far and mess with me as a personality, please drop a like and invest into the channel. I know this season just started, so if you're going to pick up the Battle Pass or an early item shop, please use code reidtheninja or another small creator so we can break onto the scene. But here's that FNCS box fight matchup I was talking about. This fight was between Baka, Pars, and Peterbot and Polo, or Pollo, not sure. These two teams are fighting over the cash that just spawned and neither are backing off. Baka and Pars are on the defensive since the cash is in their box, and both of these teams are doing a good job trading shots. The win condition in a fight like this is having piece control, and that's why you see them constantly going back and forth, shooting out this stair in the middle of the boxes or placing cones, etc. Baka and Pars are just trying to stall long enough to get this cash, and Peterbot and Pollo are trying to pressure enough to get a lot of damage in. For those unfamiliar with pro formats, there is a mechanic called Storm Surge, which basically means you have to damage other players, otherwise the game will start hurting you. And this is to make the lobby size smaller so it isn't as laggy. But Peterbot and Pollo are getting this damage in. One thing I want to point out in this fight is Pars takes some really non-optimal peeks during this fight. And I'm telling you guys, you need to be holding tight right-hand peeks. It's hard for him here since the box is half in the ground, but him still standing out in the open makes him take a lot of shield damage in this fight. But throughout this whole thing, Pars and Baka have done enough damage to their aggressors where they eventually try and back off. So if you're in a game and it feels like you just won't be left alone, know that if you can outlast them and do enough chip damage where your opponents use up important heals, they may simply leave. This, after all, is the highest level of the game, and disengaging from fights still happens, so it can definitely happen in your lobby. So whether you're a veteran to this game or just coming back to builds, make this season your season. Rank up, place in tournaments, and improve. If that's up your alley, that's what this video is about. These methodologies are some things you might have not considered before and will help you rank up and earn. I know this season I'm trying to do that again. Please use a small creator code like myself if you're going to get the Battle Pass or something in the item shop. That's code reidtheninja. And on that note, I am signing off.